Usually they are recorded on YouTube, yeah. Yes, yes. Please be seated, yep. Yep, there you go. Excellent, there you go. Okay, so welcome back. Tonight is a Lenten musical journey. We're pleased to have our protopsaltis, Manolis Anastasiou, to my right, and his apprentice, Christos Agorapidis, to my left. Manolis Anastasiou has been chanting for several years since he was a young boy. He's an educator in Washington Heights in New York. He's a science biology teacher. He has 2 master's degrees, one in education and one in educational administration. And Christos is a business owner in Hackensack, and he has a degree from University of Hartford and has been assisting Manolis now for quite a while, few years. And we will go through a Lenten musical journey where they will look at a few of the hymns that we chant leading into Lent and while they're in Lent as well. So please give a big hand for Manolis and Christos.
Father Bill, distinguished parish council, treasured Philoptokos, and pious people of St. Nicholas, we humbly welcome you tonight for this week's Lenten lecture, which will revolve around the hymnology of our church and its translation into the English language. For over 1,000 years, our liturgical music has been cultivated and enriched with countless hymns that adorn each service. As a faithful practitioner and lifelong student of Byzantine music, we believe we are living in truly exciting times as we witness an evolution of our church's hymnography as it is translated into the English language by the team at Ages Initiatives, spearheaded by Father Seraphim Dedes. This isn't the first time our liturgical music has experienced major changes. Exactly 200 years ago, Byzantine music notation was simplified from a more complex version to a more accessible notation, which we still use today. Currently, hymns also have been translated to match the exact musical text of their Greek counterparts, as to retain the integrity of the ancient hymns. So, for example, the Christos Anesti hymn still sounds like Christos Anesti, but in English. The Tie Permacho hymn still sounds like Tie Permacho, except now in English. Tireless effort has been put forth to translate hymns for a plethora of services. So, the website.
So just to give you an idea, many of our friends are familiar with the website here. And so if we wanted to look up a service, it's basically in the format of a calendar. We would find the date, and sure enough, well, let's go to Sunday. I would go to what I'm going to sing in the Orthros service.
And the Divine Liturgy.
And the Divine Liturgy, of course. And you can see there is a clear translation with Greek and English.
This is accessible for everybody. So if you ever want to follow along in any sacrament, if you're visiting another parish or in our parish, pull up the DCS. Yeah, it's Digital Chant Stand. Digital Chant Stand. No, it's a website from the Archdiocese that you can pull up date by date by date. It has all the hymns, every synaxarion for the day. It's a world of information. Fantastic.
So why is this important to you all?
So now you have the resources to preview what will be sung in the next service, in services that you attend. You can familiarize yourself with the text or learn specific hymns, which would directly improve your understanding of the hymns and the messages. So ultimately, our liturgical music is meant to enrich our daily lives. Saints encourage us to fortify our minds by keeping a hymn in mind throughout our day, lest our thoughts be stolen away. Christ sang verses with his disciples from the 118th Psalm during the Last Supper. hymns composed 10 centuries before the time of Christ. Our hymnology is relevant, enduring, and powerful. The Psalm, for example, 10 centuries, King David, that was his time frame. It was 1,000 years before Christ. And we still sing those hymns today. At the end of tonight's service, we were reading the Psalms. Tonight, we have selected specific hymns from this Lenten period, beginning from the Sunday of the Publican and Pharisee, Sunday of the Prodigal Son, Sunday of Orthodoxy, and continuing and culminating with hymns from the salutations to the Most Holy Theotokos. After each hymn, we will sing both in Greek and English. You will be given an opportunity to contribute comments for a brief discussion. To frame the discussion, we invite you to identify key words which may help you formulate the gist of each hymn. We won't go into a deep analysis of the text, but instead allow the hymns to speak for themselves.
Okay, great. We're going to sing a hymn from the Sunday of the Publican and Pharisee. It's pretty short. The colors are just used to show you the same parts in the two different pieces that line up. So we'll start with the Greek. Phariseu φύγομεν υψηγορίαν και τελώνου μάθομεν το ταπεινόν εν στεναγμής προς τον σωτήρα κραυγαζόντες ηλαθιμόνε ημίν ευδιάλακτε. What's truly amazing and what Christ meant as evolutionary is that we're going to sing the same piece in English and it should sound the same. It has the same musical line, which is, we know there have been translations in the past, but the music doesn't really fit. Now it does in most cases, which is really exciting for us. Let us flee the Pharisees' exalted parlance. Let us learn the publicans' humble demeanor, and with sighs unto the Savior cry out and say, to us be gracious, O only forgiving Lord. So at this point, one thing we love to do in the classroom is turn and talk. So you'll turn and talk to your neighbor, and then someone will just briefly share a word or a gist or a message that you extracted from the hymn. So turn and talk 10 seconds.
Or a question.
Or a question, yeah. You can turn and talk to each other, and we'll just, yeah. Okay, can I call on someone? Sir, in the back, John. The coloring is just basically so like the hymn sounded very similar. The Greek hymn sounded very similar to the hymn in English. So this purple part just matches to that purple part. The red part just matches to that part. It's the same line of music. We're going to get rid of the colors.
With the digital chant stand layout, you can see the asterisks here and the commas in Greek. It divides the lines so the chanter would know where to break.
So one comment from one of our friends. One comment, something that stood out in regard to the message of the hymn, something we'd want to take away from this hymn. I'm looking at it in English, right? So, exalted parlance, right? Let us learn the publican's humble demeanor, right? So that's something, if I'm listening to this hymn and I'm understanding it in my home language, that's something that I would hone in on, and that'll be an important takeaway.
These hymns are prayers. Father Jim always comments, he always says to me that the hymns that you guys sing are prayers. If one just reads through the text in an orthro service, you have a book full of prayers.
Okay, we're going to move on to the Sunday of the Prodigal Son, right? The next Sunday after the publican and the Pharisee. And this is a similar hymn. It's like its big brother, and you'll see that it matches perfectly in English and in Greek. Της πατρός δόξη σου, αποσκυρτήσας αφρόνος, εν κακής εσκόρπισα, ον μη παρέδοκας πλούτον, όθεν σοι την του ασώτου φωνήν κραυγάζω, ήμαρτον ενώπιον σου πατέρι κτήρμον, δέξε με μετανοούντα και πείσον με ως ένα των μυστίων σου. And then now this should match perfectly in English. Let's see if it matches. Excuse me, the chocolate cake was delicious, and it really was. I apologize. I shouldn't have had it, but it was great. I revolted senselessly out of your fatherly glory. I have squandered sinfully all of the riches you gave me. Hence to you, using the prodigal's words, I cry out, I have sinned before you, merciful, loving Father. Oh, receive me in repentance. I pray, and treat me as one of your hired hands. So beautiful how our fathers just encompassed the message of the day in one hymn. Next week, Kyriaki tis Apokreo, Judgment Sunday, and this is in first tone, and this is the kondakion sung in the liturgy. Όταν έλθεις ο Θεός επί γης μεταδόξης και τρέμουσι τα σύμπαντα, ποταμός δε του πύρος πρώτου βήματος έλκει και βίβλοι ανοίγονται και τα κρυπτά δημοσιεύονται. Τότε ρίσε με εκ του πυρός του ασβέστου και αξίωσον εκ δεξιών σου μες στην κριτά δικαιότατε. And now in English, again, should match perfectly. When you come down to the earth, O God, in your glory, all things will cower tremulous, and the river of fire will draw before your judgment seat. The books shall be opened up, and public knowledge will things hidden be. Rescue me, then, I pray, from unquenchable fire, and count me worthy to stand at your right hand, O you, the most righteous judge. Any comments? So the monks have done a wonderful job in matching the phrasing to, so the Greek, oh, yeah, we've put in, yeah, we've memorized it. Right, when we go to see a live musician, usually they don't have their music in front of them because they've put in they've memorized it. They have it in their blood, as they say. There's nothing in the blood, it's just hard work that goes into that.
But text exists for all these pieces.
Oh yes, of course, the musical text exists, right. Sure. And it looks like that. And it looks like that. Yeah, last year we talked about the importance of the patriarchal ethos and not just learning that music really, really well before you go to church. Just being prepared. We don't want to be up there turning pages and looking for musical manuscripts. You know, we go through that in our training. So, but the monks have done a wonderful, and this is why we said a truly revolutionary time. I didn't use that term lightly. Like, this is an evolution, because we can really take these words and just, oh, okay, great. If it matches the Greek, the music that matches the Greek, okay, that's fine. Then we can just study a little bit and so they've done amazing work, yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Amazing question. So sometimes the phrases and the tono won't be on the same thing, so you have to adjust. But in general, oh, interesting. Yeah, so that's a technical question. That's something that I will make a decision like in real time to make things easier, but also to make sure that the message is being, the message is coming across. Absolutely, yeah, that's a very technical question. Yeah. Yeah, so, right. So let's look at that, since you're passionate about it. Orthency, hence to you, using the prodigal's words I cry out. I think some of the old masters, sometimes they would add like a chrono, just to, instead of jumping into hence to you, could be a little, not dangerous, but hence to you gives me an extra moment to preview what's coming next. And I've noticed they've done that. That's interesting that you caught that, because a lot of the old masters, and we're talking about the ones that we have recordings of, right, from the 30s and 40s. We don't know much from before then, aside from the music, but that's interesting you said that. Right. Right. So, sure. So again, our forefathers we have the 8 different tones, or the dhromi, and we use those, just like I use the color to adorn certain hymns. So Megali Pempti, Holy Thursday, shouldn't sound happy, right? Whereas the resurrectional hymns should sound strong. Sometimes they should sound happy. And similarly, when we listen to music, if we're listening to a song that's sad, it's usually going to be written in a tone, like you pointed out, that's sadder. Or if it's a happy song, it's usually written in a major tone, C major, a third tone. So that's very, very interesting. Yes, we choose exactly what tone the hymn will be. And again, that's our forefathers.
Here, a couple
Kyria Kiti, so one more?
Nick and
Yeah, Nick.
Charlie.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. You're looking at them, yeah.
Good point. Good question.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Right. So this music is Christ-centered, so there's room for both, I think. There shouldn't be much debate on, it's very easy for us to install a healthy balance of English and Greek. Thank you, Kirniko.
With such a, like you were saying, revolutionary change, we're on the forefront of really great change in our Greek Orthodox Church. There definitely will be discussion about what's right and what's wrong, what should be and what shouldn't be.
Well,
St. Paul says we shouldn't. What good is speaking in tongues if the people don't understand? It should be spoken in the tongue of the parish, or at least accommodate those who speak a certain language.
Right. Thank you, Christo. Κυριακή της Ορθοδοξίας, Sunday of Orthodoxy, just 2 weeks ago. So this is in fourth tone, so this is not too sad, not too happy, right? Εν σύνην αγάλετε η Εκκλησία φιλάνθρωπε, τον νυμφίο και κτίστη αυτής, το ταύτη θελήματι θεοπρεπεστάτο, εξ ειδόλων πλάνης λυτρωσαμένο και σ' αυτό, αρμοσαμένο τιμίο αίματι, φεδρός απολαμβάνουσα την ιεράν αναστήλωσιν των εικόνων και χαίρουσα σε υμνή και δοξάζει πιστός. And now in English. The church is exultant now in you, the lover of humankind, you her bridegroom and fashioner, in you who by your own will, most divine, have ransomed her from the delusion of idols with your precious blood. And then, O Master, betrothed her to yourself, and gaily she takes pleasure in the most august re-establishment of the icons with faith and joy, giving glory and praising you. So,
We have questions. I'm going to have to come around to you because the folks at home cannot hear your questions. So if you have a question, raise your hand. I'll bring the mic. Okay, Charlie.
better be a good one.
Okay. Manoli, while you're singing, Christos is accompanying you in some sort of way. Can you tell us what the name of that is? And
So
what
that's called ison. It's called a drone, and it will change because even though this is written in a certain vromos or tone, that does one of the beauties of music is that the tones do mix. We can go from fourth tone to a first tone, so we can go from happy to sad, for lack of a better description, right? So he's doing the ison again. It's the drone to match the dromos or the line of music that we're singing. He may be holding an E, and then a second later he'll be holding a D, and then back to an E. But whatever he starts on at the end of the hymn, he'll finish at that same note, regardless of the journey he takes.
You want to explain the reason why you might hear that?
Might hear what?
Ison, held. How does it help? What does it do?
It adorns the hymn. Sometimes it's appropriate not to have ison, like if it's a specific moment during Holy Week, where it's better to just keep the line of music as plain as possible. So don't forget, I'm just a cantor, not a musicologist. Thank you.
Anybody else questions?
Yep.
Evans, can you pass that, please, to Evans?
Keep it going.
Great job, guys. Good to have you. Is there a hymn that you've adopted as your go-to when you're not in church? Because I would bet that it's difficult for you to just step away. So I'm wondering what hymn either one of you have adopted.
That's a wonderful, wonderful pointing question. So our forefathers meant for this music to guide us on a daily basis, right? So we can keep a hymn in our mind on a daily basis. So for example, when I woke up this morning, and I'm usually walking to the car and getting into the car, I usually have like simple hymns like the Apolitikia hymn that I'm gonna sing on Sunday or at the next service. So I will keep those in mind from week to week and day to day. I mean, this is my job, so I'm always thinking about what I'm gonna sing next. But even when I'm not, I'm enjoying just the probably, I would say, the saint of the day, whatever's celebrated that week. So not putting too much thought into it, but I have a hymn that's going to accompany me, so I'm not being, bogged down by the miseries of, whether it's work or if someone, mistreated you and something like that. I have my hymn in my mind to fortify my mind, lest my mind stray. So that's a good point, right? And a lot of my cantor friends, I always say, listen, when you should be singing, sing low, because you need to be singing often, on a daily basis. David said, Psaloto theomo eos iparcho, right? It sounds crazy, but, during our tumultuous lives and during the car, it is possible to keep a simple hymn to fortify your mind. I don't know if that answers your question. That's actually a very, very good point. Second week of Lent, commemorating St. Gregory of Palamas. And this is in first tone, so it should sound very serious. Την μακαρίαν εν κόσμο ζωήν δίνησας και νυν των μακαρίων συνεφραίνει της δήμης και γιν την των πραέων ως πράος οικής ιεράρχα Γρηγόριε, χάριν θαυμάτων πλούτης δε παραθέου, ειν παρέχεις της τιμώσης. Μπράβο, Χριστό. And now in English again, the same musical line. While in the world you attain to a life of blessedness, and now you are exulting with the ranks of the blessed, and dwell, O Bishop Gregory, in the land of the meek, being meek yourself. And you are rich in God's miracle working grace, which you grant to those who honor you. Right, so if I'm reading words like of the meek, being meek yourself, I'm going to take that with me as a, as a cantor and just as a person, and I'm going to think about how I'm treating my fellow man. In regard to what we can learn from this little hymn. That hymn is 30 seconds long and yet can guide us. Yes, sir.
Do you sing this hymn, do you sing this hymn between the chanting of Agios Athos and the reading of the epistle? And
Yes,
the others,
sir.
or
This
during
hymn,
the...
that's a very good point. A lot of the beautiful hymns that we sing are in the Orthros service, so this is at the
The other
end.
ones are all Orthos. This one, is it Orthos? or
This
it-
is Orthros, and
Oh,
this would be, if we were to be starting at 9, this would be sung at around 9:50.
Yeah, before the small
So
entry.
right,
Crowd, that's-
he's talking about the Agios Theos
Yeah.
in the liturgy.
Before
This is in the Orthros. Okay, moving on to the third Sunday, which we
Well, right before the Politicchio, on the Sunday of Gregory Palamas, it is said in the liturgy.
this hymn specifically. So this specific hymn is sung in the Orthros. This is not his Apoliticchio.
It's not the Politicchio. Okay.
Yeah, it's not the Apoliticchio. But if it were his Apoliticchio, that's a good point you brought up. So some of the hymns don't match up as well as others. So that's a good point. So how much can one team do within one generation and match the poetry of hundreds of services? I mean, our poetry took hundreds of years, thousands of years and now these guys are, translating so much within one generation, and, sometimes the poetry isn't as perfect as it could be, but they've done amazing work, just amazing work.
So if I could.
Yes,
so
of course.
for George's question, if our church was named St. Gregory Palamas, this would be sung in place of when we sing Canon Apisteos, which would be in the liturgy before the Agios Theos, right? So, but it's not.
Excellent.
So
So this hymn would be sung at the same time that the last hymn was sung. In other words, the hymns that commemorate the specific day, hence the importance of the Orthros service, right? Because we have a lot of hymns just specific to that day. And this is in fourth tone, otherwise known as Huzam, for any musicians out there. And again, the music of the English version matches the Greek. Pretty much it's like 95%. So let's see how close it is. En φωνές αλλάξομεν, εν όδες μεγαλύνομεν, των σταυρών των τίμιων ασπαζόμενοι, και προς αυτόν εκβοήσομεν, σταυρέ πανσεβάσμιε, καθαγίασον ημών, τας ψυχάς και τα σώματα τη δύναμη σου. Και παντίας εκβλάβης εναντίον, διατήρησον ατρότους, τους ευσεβώς προσκυνούντας. Let us joyfully cry aloud, and in odes let us magnify the all-precious cross, and salute it with a kiss, and let us cry out to it and say, O cross ever venerable, by the power you possess, sanctify us in every way, soul and body too. from all manner of injury arising from our enemies, preserve us, who venerate it in piety. Wait, this was last Sunday. We also sang this at the same moment during the Orthros as the last two slides, and in commemoration of St. John
This
Climacus.
could also be found in the Vesper service.
And in the Vesper service, yes. Yes. Pater Ioaniosie. Sorry, I forgot to mention this is in Plagal of Fourth, which is like C major, so it sounds really, really happy. We're really proud of this accomplishment. This is a happier hymn in regard to the question about the different tones. Pater Ioaniosie αναπτερός αστον νουν προς Θεόν διαπίστεως κοσμικής συγχύσεως ευδελίξω το άστατον και των σταυρών σου αναλαβόμενος το παντεπόπτη κατοικολούθησας σώμα δυσύνιον αγωγές ασκήσεως το λογισμό σθένη δούλος αμένος του Θείου Πνεύματος. What a beautiful hymn, so simple. And now we get to sing it with the same fervor in English. Holy Father John, as one devout, when you had lifted your mind unto God on the wings of faith, you despised the turbulence of the world and its transience. And on your shoulders you took up your own cross and followed after the Lord who sees all things. Then the unruly flesh you subordinated to your pious thought through ascetic exercise by the divine Spirit's might. Right? They've really, really done a wonderful job there at Ages. It's truly impressive. I'm going to skip, if you don't mind, Father, how are we doing on time? We're going to have two hymns in honor of our Theotokos. And the reason, can you guess why there's no text on top? Well, we're going to allow for you to attempt to guess the hymn. We have two hymns, and we're going to see if you can guess them. So the first one, I won't give any hints. The music is very powerful. You should know it. And this is in third tone, so it's in a very happy tone. You were so beautiful in your virginity. Archangel Gabriel admired your purity, which was resplendent and amazed. He said to you, Theotokos, as there are no accolades that can worthily honor you, I am at a loss for words to address you, so awed am I. But I will say what I was commanded. Rejoice, O favored maiden, full of grace. Anyone? Well, you can't, Kirinico, you spend a lot of time with us. So Kirinico has been an invaluable resource. He actually walked me buying my first apartment when we moved out about a year and a half ago. He was on the phone with me. I didn't know which lawyer to hire. Of course, Mr. Counselor Agripidis was a lot of help. Why am I saying that? It's because these people, we talked about the beauty of the hymns and the beauty of the music, but then it's like, okay, how are we applying this to real life? And I think one of the Christ-centered messages is how we treat each other, right? So thank you, Kirinico, for your invaluable help by getting my place, but also you can't cheat. You can't. You spend a lot of time with us, Kirinico, so I'm not going to go. I'm going to need to go with somebody else. So what hymn do you think it's? Would you like a hint? Friday night. Do we have anyone on the chat? Yes, so it's new to me too. It's new to me. This is the first year I'm singing it in English, and I've been singing forever. This is well, we'll reveal it in a second. We'll reveal it in a second because I have to change the font. And this is another hymn in honor of the Theotokos. No calling out. Yeah, you should know this one. And again, it's in Plagal 4th. And Chris is going to sing along with me because this is his favorite hymn. He actually learned the music before I did. I said, well, you know, this hymn is so important. I said a couple of weeks ago that I'm going to leave it alone, and I actually asked Father for permission to sing it in English because it's such an ancient hymn, so we can sing it together. I'll have to be very careful because I'm going to have to keep up with Cristo because he knows the music better than I do already. I'm just learning it, okay? O champion general, I your city now ascribe to you, triumphant anthems as the tokens of my gratitude, being rescued from the terrors, O Theotokos. Inasmuch as you have power unassailable, from all kinds of perils free me, so that unto you I may cry aloud, rejoice, O unwedded bride. So that I did make a mistake. No, we're going to do it again because I want to learn this part. From all kinds of perils free me, so that unto you I may cry aloud, rejoice, O unwedded bride. Some of our friends might be thinking, oh, well, how come sometimes we do a catalixy? Unwedded bride. Well, it's to tell whoever we're serving with, okay, we're done.
Okay, somebody knows what it's called.
Okay, this one or the first one? Who is it?
The second one.
Ti permajo. What makes you say that? That's what they have us training this year, is Ti permajo.
That's the second one.
Thank you, congratulations, very good. Yes, of course, Ti permajo. And then the sister hymn to that, sung the same night, maybe around 15 minutes after Ti permajo. We end the service Friday night. Anyone? Bueller. Does anyone have it? The smartest kids are always the quietest, Father. It's so frustrating on a Monday morning when we ask it. I'm a school teacher. That's why I keep making references to the classroom and all that stuff. Anyone?
Anybody know?
Excuse me? Close. Try again. The aspila is really long. Let's sing it again. You were so beautiful in your virginity. Archangel Gabriel admired your purity, which was resplendent and amazed. He said to you, Theotokos, as there are no accolades that can worthily honor you, I am at a loss for words to address you, so odd am I. But I will say what I was commanded. Rejoice, O favored maiden, full of grace. Anyone? Tinoreotita Spartheniashu. Very beautiful hymn. And again, I've been singing for many, many years, and this is the first year I get to sing this in English, and it's a very special experience for me as well. I get to place myself in the position of a student again, because I got to study this. Comments, I know we're maybe running a little late.
Can you go back to the first 3
Absolutely.
slides when you started the Triodion with, go to the first icon after? Yeah, so I just want to point out, so the way these Sundays are before Lent starts, so the first one is Publican and Pharisee.
That's right.
And so if you look at it, there's, so the two characters there are the publican and the Pharisee. So we have two people there with opposite, if you will, dispositions, right, in the church. And so their relation to one another is a tense one because of the arrogance, if you will, of the Pharisee and the humility of the publican. So this is what we would call a relational icon. If you go to the next one, after this, the second Sunday of Triodion. Now this is the Sunday of the prodigal son, and you have a son that's wandered and has come back home. And this one is more communal. This is a more communal one because now this involves the family. If you remember, the father goes to greet the son who has squandered everything, and then the brother is upset. The older brother is upset because the younger guy who squandered all the money gets a party, the older brother gets nothing.
Right.
So this is more of a communal icon. And the last one, in Triodion, this is a universal one because this shows, this is according to the book of Revelation, the final judgment, if you will, right? You see the souls ascending to heaven, and the ones at the very bottom there, of course, in the fires in the pit of hell as well. So we are called to be a relational church, a communal church, and a universal, or what we call a Catholic church as well, okay? So there's a progression there before Lent starts. And then the first Sunday of Lent, as you know, is the restoration of the icons, which is the Sunday of Orthodoxy. There, where we are made in the image and likeness of God, okay, as well. And then after that, what do we have? Palamas was big on speaking, 14th century saint spoke about the essences of God and the energies of God, okay? We can't experience the essence of God fully because we're human, but the energies of God we can experience through the virtues, right? Faith, hope, love, chastity, what do you call it? All the virtues that we have, love, abstinence, those types of things,
Right.
Generosity, those kinds of characteristics. And then afterwards you have the Sunday of the Cross, the veneration of the cross, which of course is the ultimate symbol of love, God's sacrifice, Jesus' sacrifice, and we venerate the cross. Of course, we don't worship it as well. It stands in the middle of Lent for us, and we get the little flower at the end to remind us of the resurrection. After that, we have the fourth Sunday, which goes to the icon of divine ascent, which is showing us that, and we did this on March 2nd when we had the men's conference, which shows us that every step on the ladder has risk, if you will, with respect to demons trying to pull us down. And even at the top of the ladder, even the most holy of people, it's a saint at the top there with the white, tries to ascend, and the demons are still after him, which is to say that even until the end, All of our lives are going to be tempted and tried by these various demons. And then the final icon is this Sunday, St. Mary of Egypt, who's an ascetic, who after so many years of being a harlot could not enter a church, but yet she repents, goes into the desert to purge herself, and lives there for the rest of her life as basically as a hermit, you could say, as well. So there's hope for her, just like there's hope for everybody else, and God even is willing to give her communion. You see Saint Sophronios there on the left, the priest who visits her and gives her communion, even though she had a life of being a harlot. So there's a graduation, if you will, or a progression before Lent, and then there are images of our own lives and our own struggles in those 5 Sundays of Lent, which will conclude this Sunday with St. Mary of Egypt as well. Anybody else have questions?
I just would like to want one recommendation. The chant that was shown earlier, which is the digital chant, I would recommend everybody should follow it, especially when you come to church. There's nothing wrong to be there on your phone and following it. It makes it so much different to follow the service. You understand it, and it keeps you engaged. Because normally I would go to church and la 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 la, just looking around what's going on. But now you follow everything that's going on, and it keeps you focused, and you understand it. So if you can put that app up again, Manoli, and if people can go to it, and maybe everybody can be in church on Sunday on their tablets or phones, and getting engaged and participate in the music, will be great.
Right, so Father made some recommendations in our prologue, and that's a good point, or at least preview. So maybe I don't know if me personally, I'm the type of person that, I grew up with the church's books, and sometimes looking into a screen is very frustrating for me, because don't forget, we're here for 3 hours. So if we're staring at a screen for 3 hours, it could become difficult. But I see what you mean. It's very exciting. At least previewing it throughout the week is, there's no excuses for it, right? And the hymns sometimes, we chose very simple yet beautiful hymns to show you that, yeah, there's access out there for just about anyone.
So this is on the GoArch website, right?
Right.
GoArch.org. And you would go to the search and you put in digital chant stand or DCS, and it will come up. And every day, the service pops up. Yeah. So like Pre-Sanctified that we just did at 5:30 would be in there under what? April 17th.
Right.
Okay, and you could find it in Greek and in English. And when we print these things out, we print it from here. Okay? So just so you know. So what I'll do is I'll put this on the bulletin, and people can, and if people want to follow that way, they can, right? Questions?
Any other questions?
Comments? Yes, hold on. Pass it to Evans, please.
So I got a question with respect to Orthros. It's a distinct, separate period, or if you want to call it a service, before the liturgy. What, as a listener, or as a parishioner, what are we looking to get from the Orthros session? I find it very solemn and prayerful, but that's just my view
I think
of it.
when the Orthros service is executed correctly, like we said in regard to our history, these things have been around for over 1,000 years. So there's something right with them. So I think one of the messages mainly is always resurrection. There's a lot of hymns honoring the Theotokos, but also hymns that are specific to that day. So all of these hymns that we sang most are from the Orthros service, but they're sung one Orthros a year. So whatever saint is commemorated that day, the hymns revolve around that saint. So if the Orthros service isn't executed correctly, then you're not going to want to go. you're not going to want to show up at 9 o'clock, right? Because who wants to? But I think our forefathers like really laid beautiful things out for us. I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah, thanks for saving me, Father.
Not that I'm an expert. So it's
Yeah.
monastic. The Orthodox is monastic in character. It just means morning service. The Latin is matins, right? Morning service. So in the beginning, there's a series of psalms. The psalms have to do with the praise of God, but also creation in the beginning. The psalms that the chanters read, and also the priest reads a bunch of what we call priestly prayers that are silent. He reads them in front of the altar, in front of the icon of Jesus, and they basically give thanks for the day and then prepare him for the liturgy. You can't hear them, but they're done. And then, as Manoli said, there's a bunch of hymns. There's always doxastika, which glorify God, and theotokia, which glorify the Mother of God. And there's a series in there called kondakion, synaxarion, ikos. These things, synaxarion basically tells you what saints are we celebrating today. So the chanters will read all the saints of the day and tell you how this saint died, for example. You'll hear something like perfected by the sword, which means he was killed by the sword, right? Or fell asleep in the Lord, which means he died of natural causes. So each Sunday, there's different saints commemorated, and each day, different saints commemorated. So the hymns that also follow that are also seasonal. For example, after Easter, we sing Katavasias of Easter. So now you have seasonal hymns. But before that, you have Lenten hymns, right? Penitential hymns, like the ones you just heard, and even more so than that. So there's a seasonal character. So each Orthodox has a fixed element that's done every Sunday, and then you have a variable element that goes by the season and by the saints being celebrated by the day. And then towards the end, you have a doxastikon, glory to God. Doxasito dixandito fos, right? That doxology, as we say, it prepares us as we enter into liturgy, right? Because we're going to glorify God in the liturgy as well. So that's standard, so to speak, as well. But depending on what season we're in and what saints we celebrate, those things vary. And each week there's a different tone. So we go through 8 tones because the voice has octave, right? Octave. So you have tone 1, 2, 3, 4. So those vary. But on a major holiday like Pascha, Easter, you have a lot of tones going on. So you don't just have one, or Palm Sunday, you have several tones going on. It gets very complicated. So that gives you an idea, I think, okay? It's beautiful, it's complicated. And you also have a gospel. You have a morning gospel in Orthodox. The morning gospel in Orthodox is always a resurrectional gospel. It speaks about the women going to the tomb, or the disciples going to the tomb and finding it empty. So Orthodox basically ushers in the Lord's Day because it's a resurrectional day. So every gospel you hear will always be a resurrectional. It's one of 8 gospels. And one of those gospels we hear on Holy Saturday night. When I'm outside, one of those gospels is done in Orthodox too, from St. Mark's gospel. So that gives you an idea, right? Yeah, I meant to say that.
Thank you both for being here. You guys are fantastic. How do you prepare for each Sunday's ortho service, for example? Because again, it's different hymns. Do you rehearse ahead of time for that, or it's just you just come in and do it?
Okay, about a big hand for these guys. Good job. Thank you. Oh, we had a question. John? Oh, okay. Hold on. Here we go. No, you're too shy.
No, well, 'cause it's not, it's not a question, it's more of a comment on what Nick said in terms of following along on the phone. And even with the books, I think it's wonderful that we know what's being said. As somebody who grew up in a very traditional Greek church where we did not know, because the language, even though we spoke Greek, the language of the church is different. But what I'm concerned with a little bit is our church was created to satisfy the five senses, the colors that we wear, the incense. And I feel like if we're looking like this, are we missing what's going on around us? Yeah, I feel a disconnect. Right, like I could see previewing it so I know what's coming up. And I always equate it to going to an opera. You don't understand it, but when you hear it, the music moves you. What goes on stage moves you. And in traditional churches, we don't have the choir. We would answer, and that would keep us on our toes, I guess. But here, it's more of a just observing and not really participating as much as we used to. But I don't know. I see kids take pictures of everything, and adults, and I'm like, are you enjoying the moment or just trying to capture it?
From my experience, I think the pious here is they do participate, right? Maybe I'm singing along with this music. I hear it loud. We should do something a little louder, right? I think as far as like the respect factor and how silent it is at certain points, I'm always pointing that out because respectful the people are here, look how silent it is. And I think it's just because of the fact that people are, perhaps we're not shouting, but I do observe a lot of people singing along with some points like this, because the issues are not to be surprised to see it all. So, that's something.
Yeah, so that's a new phenomenon, right, with the phones, right? For so many years, we didn't have any phones to go to. We just had the books, and even before the books, there was nothing, right? People had nothing, right? They just have to memorize things. And that's why the church repeats a lot too, right? Because to get it into our heads and hearts. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Manolis. Thank you, Christos, once again. God be with you always. So next week is our final one. Hard to believe. A Lenten lecture number 6. This is going to be kind of an sad one. It's going to be about human trafficking, the modern-day slavery. I've invited Pastor Jason James. He's up the block at Bethany Church. And there's something called Project Rescue, which is an organization that goes into very dangerous areas and rescues kids from prostitution. And this happens even in the United States. When I was talking to Pastor Jason the other day, he came in to look at the place and to set up his equipment. He said to me, one of the major areas of trafficking and child prostitution is our Super Bowl, believe it or not. So every year, the Super Bowl attracts all kinds of characters, you could say, and pimps who basically prostitute people out. And so the organization that's affiliated with his church was started by a couple of missionaries who went to India many, many years ago. And now their children run the organization called Project Rescue. And they basically try to take kids out of this situation of human trafficking, bring them into a family that will adopt them, or into what they call a safe house, right? So they can escape this life of terrible evil. Sometimes it fails, sometimes it succeeds. There's recidivism. The people go back, or they escape and they go back to that life because sometimes they've been taken from their homes when they were 12, and that's the only life they know. So, but it's very profound in terms of what people are doing to risk their own lives to save a young life. So I thought we should be aware of this. But when he told me about the Super Bowl, being naive, I guess, as I am, I had no idea. And when he said that to me, I was like stunned that that's happening in our own country. Okay, so I hope you can make it next week, 7:30, Project Rescue. Okay, have a good night. and we will see you soon. Thank you, AHEPA. Thank you for the meal. Thank you, Evans Agripides Parish Council, AHEPA President. Thank you.